to have you on the show tonight. I met your wife at a Vermont Energy Plan explanation by the Public Service Board a couple of weeks ago at BFA High School. And so why don't you tell us where your interest initiated, where and when and why your interest in wind energy came to be?
Well, I got a wake-up call by way of a postcard through the mail on June 17th. It was a Wednesday, announcing that there would be a meet and greet in my development on Saturday the 20th, 3 days later. This meet and greet was to inform us that Travis Belisle, his father, and some unknown investors were planning on putting 7 industrial wind turbines on the ridge behind the lot that I bought from Travis Belisle in 2008, I believe. He talked about doing something on the hill. He has about 250 acres up there. Wind was one of the mentions. Stone quarry was another one. But we thought it was a smaller scale, net metering or something like that. Mm-hmm. So we were willing to take that chance. But on June 20th, my life changed. I have done research into this subject in just the short 2 months. I'm by no means an expert, but when you dig into this topic, it's pretty scary. There are people that have an agenda that includes us and not to our best interest.
Amen to that. And it's up to us to be the American citizens that we're meant to be, we the people, to stand up when we see things that are being done against our best interest. And that makes me think, one more quick thing. We the people of Vermont would like to remind you, our representatives and senators and the administration, remind you of the oath you swore upon taking office. In particular, here we go. Quote, here's your oath of office. You do solemnly swear that you will not propose or assent to any bill, vote, or resolution which shall appear to you injurious to the people, nor do nor consent to any act or thing whatever that shall have a tendency to lessen nor abridge their rights and privileges as declared by the Constitution of this state, but will in all things conduct yourself as a faithful, honest representative of the people, not of the state, not of some developer or some group of businesses, but representatives of the people. Just a reminder.
Well, in defense of the legislators, they never voted on this. This was a decree by Governor Shumlin. They have voted since to provide money to keep it going, but this was a decree by one man enforced on all of us. And we need to wake up and realize where this is heading. We are spending more money than we're getting in results and benefits. The efficiency of a wind tower, for example, right out of the box is 30%. So you can discount 70% of the numbers they give you. If it's going to benefit 7,800 homes, subtract 70%. If it's going to generate X amount of megawatts, subtract 70%. We are spending more money for less good, and if you dive into the details, you will realize this. It's not what it appears on the surface.
So the actual productivity is 30%.
30%, and it decreases. The towers over in New York are down to 13 to 15% because they're wearing out due to age.
I can see those from my house.
Me too.
You can.
Day and night.
I don't look at night, and fortunately my vision isn't what it once was, yeah. So I don't see them as clearly. But when I have binoculars, I can see them all along the
And these on Rocky Ridge are going to be New York style, 500 feet, tallest in the state, and we will also be the closest to homes that any towers have been in the state. We're projected to be 2,300 feet away. Georgia, the closest house, is 3,600 feet.
Really? And they're complaining.
And they're complaining. What happens is you have to look at a half-mile to a mile radius around these towers. These are the people that are being impacted. Anybody 5, 10 miles away, oh, aren't they majestic? Yes, they are. But what if you lived right underneath one? And what if the wind blew for 72 hours, 3 days? How would you feel?
I wouldn't like it.
No. And another thing is what they're measuring is sound, is decibels that we hear on the street. And part of the problem here in Vermont is our sense of hearing is very keen. We don't have the traffic noise. We don't have the sirens. We don't have that background noise that dulls our senses.
We're used to quiet.
Yeah, we're very in tune. Crickets, frogs, coyotes. We hear it all.
That's
so
true.
any noise that's introduced to our environment is going to be a shock to our systems.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And in other areas where there's been a big push for wind turbines to be in areas where people live, people are complaining about sleeplessness and headaches and all kinds of things. So.
What happens is the Public Service Board has declined to recognize dBH or dBg, which is infrasound, and that's not audible. They don't measure this. This is the turbulence of the air coming out of the back of the turbines. It comes in a vortex and is funneled in one direction. But as the wind changes direction, this vortex changes direction. And depending on the topography, if your house is in a valley or in a valley, it is, or a notch in the topography, it's going to funnel right down there and hit you directly. Also, what the Public Service Board does not measure is the infrasound inside your house. They assume it drops 15 dBGs or dBHs because of the walls and the windows in your house. This is not true. Tests have been done inside the houses, which the Public Service Board does not do, that show that it only drops 1. Not the 15 as the Public Service Board says that it does.
Wow. Someone mentioned to me today that there can be a, what's the word, a rumbling of the ground.
It's like a drum. Or true, the tower's vibrating as well.
Yeah.
And the sound. The young generation with their boom boxes in their cars that thump as they come down the road.
Oh boy.
That is DBC. That is a low frequency. But you'll feel that as well, and that's that thumping drum sound.
Yeah, I love it when I'm stopped at a light and I hear ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom.
What's coming down the road?
Oh, boy. Well, this is a tough subject, and it boggles my mind that there is such an acceptance at the state level. I'm just wondering, I mean, a big part of Vermont's income is tourism.
Right.
Now, I highly doubt that people would come to Vermont to look at windmills and solar panels. Mr. Blittersdorf, not just, he's involved with wind and solar, okay? And do we want, I mean, I've been on some highways and roads throughout Vermont where I see an array of these. I saw them in New Jersey, as a matter of fact, a week ago. But we have to stop and where is the reasoning? Who from the tourism agency is speaking up and saying, now wait a minute, what are we doing here?
There was an article recently in the Free Press touting our foliage in Vermont. Those wind towers don't change colors. They're always white.
No, and do they affect the leaves on the trees or no?
I'm not sure, but with a vortex coming out the back, I'm sure it's going to disrupt the leaves and the wind in general.
And of course, some people are really concerned about the birds and so forth flying into these.
Well, it's interesting. A bat does not even need to come in contact with a blade of a wind turbine. Just the pressure alone, like the bends of a diver coming up from low pressure, will explode their lungs.
No kidding.
They don't even need to touch those blades. Just be in the proximity. Now think of what's that doing to us. I mean, that's a small scale. But this is the effect of the infrasound.
Interesting. And then here's maybe a silly thing just occurred to me. Sometimes silly things occur to me. But we have a lot of pollen in the air at certain times of the year. Especially recently, out on my deck, on the table, I see this yellow film that I have to wipe off, and on the chairs and everything. So Are these windmills going to blow that toward the homes?
I don't think any more than the wind. But you won't have to worry about pollen because the trees are going to be removed to put these wind towers up. About 5 acres needs to be cleared per tower. And there's a cement pad of about 1.5 acres that needs to be installed underneath these towers to support them.
Wow. Well, this kind of sprung up rather quickly when you think of the whole expanse of time.
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing about, well, Mr. Blittersdorf says, oh, we have a caller.
Okay.
Caller, welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Hi, good evening. I'm watching your program, Linda, with your guest, and I live on French Hill, and we see all those windmills over in New York State.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know how many. We've been over there to look at them, and I guess my question is, has anybody gone over there and interviewed the people that live near there? I can't think of the city or town that are in, but I know it's north of Dannemora Prison. And
Yes.
we went over maybe a couple years ago to find them. These things are huge.
Well, they're coming to a ridgeline near you.
Well, my question is, I think somebody should go over there and study what's going on with the people over there and get the information on the health, the noise, devaluation of land, or any other things. I mean, that's right across the lake, and there must be 20 or 30 of them.
Oh yeah, there are a lot more than that, I think, Diane.
I believe it's Ellensboro, but I'm not sure.
Ellensburg?
Ellensburg, yeah, something like that. Anyway,
Okay.
we've got a unique situation here in Vermont when they put them on the ridge lines because sound is heavy and it'll fall, it'll settle. So they're more on a flat plane, so they're more consistent. I've heard, not necessarily in New York, but I've heard of people who have put in bunkers in their cellar out of cement just to get away from this the infrasound, and so they can get a good night's sleep. Sleep deprivation is one of the major problems. Some places they have asked to have them turned off at night, so we're not exposed to that inconvenience.
Really?
I work nights, so I sleep days, so maybe they can turn them off during the day, and we won't have a thing to worry about.
Well, I think you got to get enough people there, and you got to get enough information to find out how detrimental this can be, or if there's any pluses to it at all. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't want windmills and solar panels all over the state of Vermont, and I don't want somebody telling me I can't have propane or natural gas. So it sounds like we got to fight Bittersdorf or whoever that character is.
Well,
Blittersdorf.
Yes, we're in the early stages here. People need to find out what's going on. Part of the reason they're in such a hurry is because the word is starting to get out. And we're getting wise to this, and we're realizing that it's not the answer. Some people,
Yeah, it's sort of like Obamacare and Nancy Pelosi. We're not going to tell you what's in it till after we vote on it, and then you can find out what we've done to you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so education and marketing and the whole thing, and, you know, getting enough people to realize what's going on is very important. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know enough about them. I just know that they're huge, they make a lot of noise, but I don't know about the devaluation of the land. But I would think if you have problems, it would devalue your land, because who wants to buy a house next to a windmill that's going to give you health problems or make a lot of noise?
that's the situation I'm in.
Well, I wouldn't. You wouldn't even go near there. But you didn't know that when you were thinking of buying the land. It just happened to you recently.
Right, I had some inclination, but nothing on this scale. Like I say, these will be the largest in Vermont and the closest to a home in Vermont ever.
Well, I don't know what the answer is, but I would think that the more information you get, the more ammunition you have. And once you have your facts, then you can go shooting with the two guns.
Right, but a lot of the facts or the information that's coming out is being discredited. We're in the early stages, like with large tobacco and cigarettes and cancer. Do you realize how many studies large tobacco funded that showed that cigarettes did not cause cancer?
Sure, because it's all money. Everything is money
Exactly,
today.
and we're at that stage right now. So we
Yeah.
need to dig, we need to be educated, and we need to point these things out.
Well, it's like the GMOs. They say they're not going to hurt you. That's a total lie.
Yes.
Nobody knows what it's going to do to somebody down the road when they've played around with the genes and crossing this and crossing that. You know, it's totally insane. You got to use your common sense.
You know what, Diane? You're right on. There are these chemical companies, that pharmaceuticals, that create these genetically modified organisms.
Yeah.
Do you know, I read that they actually do list the ingredients on the products for the people in Europe, but they don't want to do it here?
No, because it's all money. And the thing is, what you don't know, so you just put it in your mouth, and that's the way it goes. And like the thing is, if you read the labels and you can't understand what's on the label, don't put it in your mouth.
Somebody said if there are more than 3 ingredients, don't eat it or don't buy it.
Right. I agree.
Good
It's
rule of
just like
thumb.
when you watch TV now, all these pharmaceutical drugs, they're advertising like crazy on the TV, and what they do is they give you all the side effects, okay? Who in their right mind would put that in their mouth to cure a pain to get 50,000 side effects?
Well,
Really, think about it.
obviously there are people who do because they wouldn't be advertising them. Some
Yeah,
pe-
it's crazy.
some
Totally
pe-
nuts.
some people don't pay attention to
God
what
gave you a brain. People better start using it.
Exactly. We need to get active. We've been too complacent, and
Of
things.
course, and they're stepping all over
Exactly.
everybody.
Things
You got to
are-
stand up and fight back these idiots.
Yep, that's what we need everybody to do.
All
Recognize
right,
this.
I'm going to get off.
Thank you
Talk
for your
to
call.
You soon.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks, Diane. Yes, I've been saying that's why I do the program.
We need to get the information.
9 years now, and I just want to expose the people. If they accept it, if they absorb it, if they say, oh, that's nonsense, well, then just wait till you find out for yourself. But in the meantime, the opportunity to learn what's going on, it takes research on your part and my part to know, what to talk about with the guests. And that way, I'm forced into doing my own homework and being more knowledgeable about the things that are going on. And this is not the only thing that's going on. There are many things going on, but this is one of them. Now, one of the things, the lifespan of these, what do you call them? The blades, the turbines. They must have a lifespan. So right now we're having all of these rules and regulations about what we homeowners can put into landfills, okay? So when you look at massive, I don't know how long, 20 feet, or I don't know how long
The blade span?
the blade
Yeah.
span is, but it's very long.
Yes, it is.
How are they going to dispose of those? Mariana Gamache told me that they're just going to, when they're no longer functioning, they're just going to leave them there.
Well, what we're finding is, unlike nuclear power plants, there's been no decommissioning money set aside. We're starting to request this now. I mean, are these steel towers just going to rust? Are we going to be a movie set for Will Smith? Or what's going to happen here? And there's a lot of, like you say, there's a lot of hydraulic fluid and chemicals in here. And when they burn, you just let them burn.
And
There's nothing you can do.
And the other question I have, because I'm not highly knowledgeable about this, I just know what I've read and what
Well, I
I've
know
learned
it.
from other people. I thought that there were some batteries that were going to store the energy that was generated. So, but I was told today that there are no batteries. So do you know what the story?
Batteries for the turbines or batteries?
Yeah.
No,
the energy.
they siphon electricity back through the system. It doesn't pay for it. But there are fans and motors to turn towards the wind. There are actually motors to start the blades turning. They don't just start spinning when the wind blows. They need to be prompted. So there's quite a bit of electricity use in these towers to begin with.
Okay, so for someone who is not technological, shall we say, here you have this huge, humongous thing with the blades and the tower and everything. Okay, so it's spinning. Now, okay, so it's blowing wind, but how does the electricity play in? Are there wires?
Yes, there are wires inside, and a matter of fact, the wires are loose and just hanging there. So every once in a while, if the turbine's been following the wind and the wire inside is all twisted, the motor has to kick in and unwind the wire.
Okay,
So that does
but
not break.
The energy must be going to a grid.
Yes.
Okay, so it gets there through wires?
Yes, there'll be an extensive power line coming
Transmission
down,
line?
coming down from that
Above
mountain.
ground or below ground?
Above ground, yep.
Oh, that ought to be lovely
Oh, yeah,
looking too.
that'll be good. Yep.
Yeah,
And
a
then it
nice
plugs into the
roosting
system.
place for the birds.
Sure, sure. But I'm sure everybody's aware of this by now, but all the power generated in Georgia goes to the city of Burlington. There is so the local people benefit zero from this mountaintop.
They just get to enjoy the benefits
They get the view.
the view and the noise and so forth. I see.
And the dead birds.
Okay, so who's making the money? Blittersdorf, I just found out, David Blittersdorf, was involved with, who's the man?
Harrison.
Harrison
Yes,
Concrete.
Yes.
Is it Jim Harrison?
I think so. I believe so. Yes.
I thought he was in the grocery thing, but maybe
No,
I
he's in
haven't.
the cement business, and those people like these projects as well. It takes about 28 cement trucks plus per tower of cement.
Wow.
So, and when you consider the cement, to make 1 pound of cement, you generate 1 pound of CO2. So these towers are behind the curve already. After all this cement is produced, brought to the site, poured in the ground, there's already a carbon deficit.
Because of the truck and
The truck and just the energy to mix the cement and the sand and create the cement itself.
Unbelievable. Well, what baffles my mind is that Vermont has the lowest carbon output in the country.
Exactly.
And so we're doing something right from the get-go.
Right.
Plus, we have all the trees that absorb the forest and everything, absorb the CO2. We're not a big industrial state, so we're not creating a lot. So why couldn't we just leave well enough alone?
And that's my question too. Why are we compensating for the energy use of the rest of the company so people can maintain their lifestyles? Gas prices are going down, SUV pickup truck sales are going up. And and it's up to us to destroy our natural environment to support this behavior. Recently, Alaska, Vermont, and Hawaii were exempt from President Obama's rules to lower power plant emissions. I think that's just by default. We don't use that much energy.
Yeah.
We don't produce it. Why should we cut down? We're not even there yet.
Exactly. What was the other thing I was thinking? Okay. Now, I was doing a little bit of reading earlier today, and I discovered that there are, let me see, 2 projects, wind projects, I believe. The one, Belial's,
Yes.
and one of Blittersdorf's,
Irisburg. Yes.
that didn't get a permit
Exactly.
for the, what was it for?
The meteorological tower, the
Yeah,
tower
to
that measures
test-
the wind to see if it's a viable site for.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
And so there's some to do about that with the Public Service Board.
Well, that'll be a slap on the hand. With this project on Rocky Ridge, according to Martha Staskis.
In Swanton,
In Swanton,
bordering Fairfield.
And St. Albans Town. LaBelle Drive is very, very close.
Okay.
Our caller on French Hill, she'll be somewhat shielded, but step back and look at that ridge. What's going to stop people from putting up more once you get 7 up there? Lowell has 21.
Wow.
So beware.
And do you know, Dustin, the wind power that is generated not just in Georgia but in other places, did they complete that project up in Lowell?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So where does that power go?
Green Mountain Power is involved with that. I don't know if they just.
Okay, that's Canada now. Because Canada now owns Green Mountain Power and what's the one down in Rutland? I'm sorry, wait a minute.
The CVPS.
CVPS.
I think they've been combined.
Yeah,
integrated.
under Gaz Metro
Okay.
up in Canada.
Yep.
So we gave up our nuclear power plant that was generating kilowatt for 4 cents.
Yes.
We now have Gaz Metro in Canada, fortunately a friendly country to us. But now I understand they run CVPS and Green Mountain Power.
Right.
So we gave up 2 Vermont
Companies.
energy companies plus the nuclear power plant. What are we trying to do? What's the master plan here?
That's what you've got to ask
If you're
yourself.
standing up above and you're looking down at what's going on here, I think you'd be asking why.
Where is this leading?
Yes, what is the purpose?
Ramifications.
Who's benefiting? Who's going to pay the price?
We're already paying the price. We have some of the highest electric rates in the nation.
I know we do. And that's why we can't, one of the reasons, and high taxes.
Yes.
So high energy costs, high taxes, and the lack of technologically advanced people who can be employees of companies that might want to come here. Well, caller, we have another caller. Welcome to the show.
Good evening to you, Linda Kirker, and your guest.
Hi there, David.
How you doing tonight?
Great. And you?
Well, not too bad. You know, I was just coming up my Lower Newton Road, and I've got 83 solar panels down there in my place. And, you know, and they're secluded. They're not where I can see them other than just driving by. But, you know, wind power, solar power, you know, because we got rid of Vermont Yankee, we have to make up the loss. Where can we not make it up if we don't have solar energy and wind power? Because of our stupid idiots down there in Montpelier voting to do away with Vermont Yankee, and they should have had another plant ready to go to replace that one.
Absolutely.
I'll let your guest respond to my question.
Thank you for the call.
I'm no expert, but obviously we've left ourselves in a void and we're scrambling to make up for it. And people have ideas for how we can make up for it, and they put us in a position to and forced us to go this direction.
Absolutely.
Now, you were telling me earlier that some of the power we buy from Canada, I'm very much in favor of hydropower, and they have plenty of it up there.
They do.
The problem is the transmission lines. They're talking about underground or underwater and underground, which
And there's resistance to that.
Right, right. But I think those are good solutions. They're obviously more expensive. But if this continues to go down the East Coast, maybe people down below can help absorb the cost of these transmission lines. And sure, there's objection, but we're trying to keep them from overhead traditional high tension lines. So
Well,
we're doing something. We're trying.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I understand those under Lake Champlain transmission lines are going to serve southern,
We got New York, you got Massachusetts, you got as far as Connecticut, depending how far they go. Southern New England.
Yes,
Southern
that's
New
what I
York.
want
Yes,
to say.
yeah.
Southern New England. So, how does Vermont benefit from that?
Well, we would be able to tap those lines as they go through.
We would?
Yes, and
That's for sure.
And utilize the power. I'm not an expert, but that would get the transmission lines coming in this direction and hopefully benefit everybody along the line.
The thing is, they're unbeknownst to the average person, and maybe even to some of the people who serve in the legislature, there's a master plan going on from somewhere other than what we see.
Yes.
In order to recreate an environment that will, as I read in the opening, people will be forced to give up their cars, ultimately, to use electric buses and trains. What's the discussion now? Bring the train from New York City and up to Montreal. And you know what my first thought was? Great way to bring in illicit drugs. Who's going to check for that?
Right, right.
You know? And then I read something about somebody on a train had like 2,000.
Of the heroin, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's no logic. There's no common sense.
No.
There is a drive for a goal, an agenda that is not in the best interest of the people of this state.
Yeah. If someone's going to design a plan for the human race, I think we all ought to get involved and not just a few people.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
But who's asking you your opinion?
No one.
No one's asking me mine
they're
either.
Just taking charge. And until we realize what direction we're going in, hopefully it won't be too late, we can correct this. That's why we have a government. That's why we have a voice. It's starting to get squashed, but I think that the grassroots are still there, and we can
They better start waking up.
fertilize them. We can
and
get them growing again.
Speaking up in a hurry, because
yes.
I think there are aspects of our government that are complicit in this agenda, or it wouldn't be happening.
You wonder why it costs so much to run a campaign. There's a lot of power at the other end.
Well, yes, and you know, I think there should be a law that prohibits out-of-state lobbying to come here and deposit big pockets, you know, money
Right, to influence. Sure.
to influence, which we know there's a fair amount of.
Yep. There's a company in Italy who's investing in these wind turbines.
Oh, sure.
Warren Buffett is investing in these wind turbines. Investment bankers are investing in these wind turbines. They're following the money.
Sure they are. And who, you know, our poor little state, beautiful state on the surface. I mean, they're, you know, it's as pretty as it gets.
Yes.
But when you start digging and you find these issues, these problems that run against common sense and productivity and independence, you know, and we the people, you know.
They think we're naive. And we have become a little complacent. We enjoy living here. We like the peace of life. We don't like the hustle and the bustle. And we tend to kick back a little bit. But now this is happening. So we need to rally the troops, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And make people aware. You can make your own decision, but just make sure you know what's going on behind the scenes.
Absolutely. David, who called in just a little bit ago, mentioned Vermont Yankee and so forth. And I just wanted to give a quick report. Watchdogagain.org, Bruce Parker. Actually, he's going to be a guest on the show coming up before too long. And he writes that property value homes in the Windsor area where the nuclear power plant was, Bennington and area,
Okay.
when the value of homes went down 8.5%. From 194,000 on average to 177. Vermont, the loss of Vermont Yankee, of course, there were 600 workers there with an average pay of over $100,000.
Good union jobs. Yes.
Yeah, average pay about 105,000. So think of it. Their income taxes, their property taxes, their spending in the stores locally and so forth, all that money that kept that area going, those jobs are gone. The other thing is, another result, there's a loss of 669 jobs at nearby local businesses because they don't have the business anymore. Let me see here, a total of 1,220 estimated total job losses. What a disaster for a county in our state.
This happened way too quick. It should have been a gradual, major plan with steps along the way, not just cold turkey as it was.
But they have to do shock and awe, okay?
Yeah.
They have to do it quickly
Yeah.
and hope that we don't catch on,
Exactly,
all right?
yeah, before we realize it.
Exactly.
Also getting back to David, Linda was telling me that the power we buy from Canada, a lot of it's hydro, but a lot of it is nuclear as well. Also, we're looking to fill that void. Seabrook has come up as a possible option. So it didn't go away.
Seabrook, New Hampshire nuclear power plant is, you know, in the sights of our state.
We need to replace
But
that
they're
power.
anti-nuclear.
Oh, I forgot.
Oh yeah, yeah. Isn't that cute?
Yeah, yeah.
So the annual pay estimate from those job losses would have been $106,901 and change. I'm sorry, 106,901,672 lost to the state.
Yep, because of a state decision.
Yes. So we need to they need to figure out how to get jobs for people if they haven't already left the state.
Right.
But then a lot of this this agenda, I believe, is meant to drive people out of the
Sure,
state.
sure. Yeah.
So they're doing a good job of
No,
it.
they're very successful.
So property taxes are up, the minimum wage is up in general. So what's a business owner to do?
And electricity is expensive, so who would want to locate here?
Well, go ask a legislator, right?
Yeah.
So what else is on your mind here?
Just the fact that, you know, I'll be called the NIMBY because I live so close, but the people that live close to these wind turbines are the ones that are most affected. They're a small group, But as more and more of these projects go up, more and more of these small pockets of people are affected. And eventually, the truth is going to come out. And right now, I am proposed to be a guinea pig because these will be the tallest towers in Vermont and the closest to a house.
Wow.
The problem is there are no siting requirements for these wind towers. Act 40, or House 40, is being reviewed right now during the summer months at the legislature, and that is only addressing cellular towers and solar panels. For some reason, a 500-foot tower with a blade that spins at 180 miles per hour was not considered for this legislation.
Oh, very interesting. Well, there are some big pockets out there filled with money that have a vested interest,
yes,
okay? And maybe some of those dollars have flown into places of decision maker pockets. So you mentioned the siting requirements. What's fascinating is that my understanding is that the people of a community do not have a say regarding the siting of windmills or solar panels, I would assume, in their community. We now have regional government, regional planning, regional development, and I'm not a big fan of regional government. I like local control, where the people are live closest to those decision makers, okay? Yes. Now we're setting up more and more local government, regional government, and that takes the power and even the knowledge, the education away from the homeowners, the people in the community.
It's been consolidated for convenience to streamline the process. They don't want the input. They want what they want, and they're going to set it up so it's easily obtained by them.
And I mentioned to you early, I don't know if we were on the show yet, ICLEI.
Yes.
The folks, here's an international council, for local environmental initiatives. All right? An international council for local environmental decisions, basically. All right?
It goes beyond Governor Shumlin. It goes beyond President Obama. It starts at the United Nations.
Absolutely.
These wind towers and solar panels are across the world.
Yep. Big money.
Yep. Someone has done a good job of getting their point across and is profiting from it.
Oh, and I just have to wonder how it seems that these initiatives were so easily swallowed.
Yes.
Other pockets must be lined along the way.
True. And it's especially obvious the way the process has been streamlined. It's just amazing how they have taken all the roadblocks out of the way. Someone had some forethought, and you just wonder how long ago this process started. It's been gradually building, and now the highway is built, and it's running at full speed.
Although, according to Mr. Blittersdorf, we won't have to worry about highways. Because we won't have cars and trucks and things. We'll be all living in clusters where you won't need your car.
Another quote from Mr. Blittersdorf for the same speech in Virgins was, why aren't we installing these wind turbines in China, in India, in places that really need this power? Well, he tells us that we need to perfect the technology here.
Oh, let us be the...
It's a P word, all right, but it's not perfect. It's profit.
Yeah. And we're the guinea pigs.
Yes.
Let us pay the price.
Oh, exactly.
There was something else I just wanted to mention, and it'll come back to me. Let me see. I had a couple of things here. If you have something else you want to
I've got a good one.
Okay, jump in.
Okay.
Stay with us, folks.
This is what happened in Lowell. The Nelsons owned land in Lowell, a 600-acre farm.
Now, tell us where Lowell's up in the Northeast
Yes,
Kingdom,
this was one of the first projects in Vermont. This is 21 of them. Green Mountain Power was involved with this one. They owned a 600-acre mountainside farm. 28 of these acres were on top of the ridge where Green Mountain Power wanted to put their wind turbines. The Nelsons resisted. It's amazing what happened after that. GMP filed a suit in Newport. Governor Shumlin appointed a judge, Martin Malley, who had no knowledge or experience in property cases. However, Malley, a longtime neighbor and family friend of the CEO of Green Mountain Power, Mary Powell, who was known to have vacationed at the same locations and times as Governor Shumlin, so obviously some communication going on, were very strong supporters of Vermont wind projects, as we know. Judge Malley was assigned to family court in St. Albans, right here in St. Albans. The Nelsons lived in Lowell, Orleans County. The disputed property was in Lowell, Orleans County. The civil suit was filed in Orleans County Superior Court in Newport. Yet the first hearing was held in St. Albans, Franklin County, before Judge Martin Malley, not yet confirmed, who had been presiding in family court here in St. Albans. The plaintiffs in the case, the Nelsons, who live in Orleans County, were not even notified of this hearing. It gets worse. In September 2011, even as Green Mountain Power began constructing the access road to the mountainside where the Nelsons own property, the hearing on the evidence of the Nelson suit was held in Orleans County, finally. At the time, Judge Malley had been reassigned to the Orleans court from Franklin to Orleans. How convenient. Extensive surveyor testimony was presented regarding boundary lines. Demonstrating his unfamiliarity with issues outside family court, Judge Malley had asked what a range line is. After testimony, he stated that the case was too complicated for him, and he decided at that moment that the Nelsons' request for a restraining order to keep Green Mountain Power off their property, instead of doing that, he gave Green Mountain Power a restraint order against the Nelsons to keep them off their own property.
Oh my goodness.
So this is how the inner workings work. When it gets down to brass tacks, politics takes over. Judge Malley just continued to stall off the proceedings. September 2013, a 2-year delay. Construction by GMP was expected to take 1 to 1.5 years. Had a similar situation in Georgia with the fly rock from the blasting. People complained that it was going beyond the 1,000 border perimeter. It took the Public Service Board 6 weeks to respond. By then, the blasting was completed.
Oh, how convenient.
So we got a lot of things working against us here. So we have very little leverage. It's almost a death sentence.
A lot of vested interests.
Yes, that are going to make sure that it
That
goes
this
through,
happens.
no matter how we feel about it.
Yep. Well, until, and I talk at length about we the people, we are supposed to be the empowered ones in this country.
But we need to empower ourselves.
Absolutely.
We need to be active. We need to find out what's going on. If we agree with it, sit right back, because it's going to happen. If you don't, speak up.
Stand up and speak out.
And numbers will help.
Well, listen to this one. This is from the Ethan Allen Institute newsletter. The economic importance of preserving Vermont's landscape. The Vermont Roots Migration Project of UVM recently published the results of a survey asking people why they leave, stay, or return to Vermont. For those who stay here, the number one motivational factor was I enjoy Vermont's landscape. At 70% of the people said that. For those who return, landscape was the second highest factor behind missed my family. So naturally, we're going to blight our landscape with windmills and solar panels.
We have a good thing here, and we pay dearly for it. We pay in property taxes, we pay in state income taxes,
Regulations.
we pay in a sugar tax, we pay an extra 1% tax at Walmart.
Yep.
It's expensive to live here.
Well, just in the town. It's everybody in the
Everybody.
town.
Yep.
Every business
Sure.
in the town.
Williston's the same,
Yes.
South Burlington.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is another interesting tidbit. How the folks who run the state that wants to save the planet invest their own money. A report by State Treasurer Beth Pierce says that about 48,000 Vermont state employees and retirees are eligible to invest in a fossil fuel free investment fund. Okay? 171 have done so out of 48,000. That's 0.0035%. They're no dummies. Over the past 5 years, the fossil fuel funds have earned returns below the benchmark. Maybe it wasn't the fossil fuel companies anyway are generating good profits, and these people want to keep their money in those funds, but only when they didn't want to invest in the fossil free, but yet they're forcing us to become fossil free.
Because it's not economically feasible, so you've got to force it to happen.
One more thing. The world is decidedly not following Vermont's lead on renewables. Australian Prime Minister Abbott's Conservative coalition government has ordered the taxpayer-funded $10 billion Clean Energy Finance Corporation to immediately cease any new investments in wind power projects. Up close, they're ugly, they're noisy, and they may have all sorts of other impacts. It's right and proper that we're having an inquiry into the health impacts of these things. Britain and other nations and many U.S. states are emulating Australia, not Vermont. So much for the global leadership rationale for our energy policy. So other people have the wisdom to look at what we're doing and seeing the negatives of it.
Also, before we finish, we're having a wind fair up on Rocky Ridge Road this Saturday, the 22nd, 1 to 4. Come on up, everybody's welcome. There'll be people there that know more than I do. They can answer your specific questions. And as we've talked the whole show, you need to educate yourself, realize what's going on. We're not trying to influence your decision, make your own. But until you know what's out there, you're not going to be aware of what's happening to you.
Amen to that. And I was asked by a friend to make this announcement. There is going to be a speaker. There's an evening with William Federer on September 18th at the Holiday Inn in South Burlington at 7 o'clock. It doesn't pertain to this topic that we're discussing tonight, but what he's going to discuss is the Supreme Court ruling on non-citizen voting, the Supreme Court ruling on same-sex marriage, the Supreme Court legislating from the bench, Sharia and radical Islam, and economic tsunami that's coming. So if you're interested in hearing him speak, he's a nationally known speaker and best-selling author. And that's 7 p.m. at the Holiday Inn on September 18th. So we're probably down to the last couple of minutes now.
I just would like to leave you with a quote from Warren
Do
Buffett.
that, sure.
We get a tax credit if we build a lot of wind farms. That's the only reason to build them. They don't make sense without the tax credit.
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett, an investor.
And billionaire.
Billionaire. Who's investing in wind turbines.
Who owns the Santa Fe Burlington National Railroad that carries oil throughout the country and into Canada. And he is dead set against the pipeline, the Keystone Pipeline, because he would lose $2 billion a day.
He's well diversified.
He's well diversified. He's a smart man.
Very smart man.
But he's also a huge donor to our president.
Yeah.
And our president said he'd veto the Keystone Pipeline, which would give us about 60,000 jobs. They say something along those lines.
You're starting to see the connections.
Oh, the connections are big, big money.
Yes, yeah, and that's what. And people feel frustrated that they don't have a say in this matter. And it's gone a long ways. It's gotten out of control, but we can bring it back.
Okay, I like your enthusiasm.
Thank you very much, Linda.
Hey, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Dustin. Folks, I hope you enjoyed the program and learned a lot. I always do, and keep cool, and I'll see you again next week with another very good guest. Take care. Good night.